Hey everybody, Whitney McFly here, and this week we're moving forward with a Back to the Future garage. Now I really wanted to do a science lab setup in the corner of the room, and I may not be the only one out there who needs to do a science lab setup. I mean, you might be working on a Frankenstein science lab, maybe working on a diorama that's fit for, I don't know, Harry Potter. And there's always a good reason to create some sort of lab or potion setup if you're dealing with any sort of witch project. So let's not hesitate anymore and let's get to it.
All right, let's get to it. So in this opening scene where we also have the ping pong table, you see Marty walk in and you see this lab setup to the side of the room. We get a pretty good shot of it. It is to the background there. He walks right by it. Got some other stuff sitting there and it looks to be on top of some sort of table or desk. And then even behind Doc, as we're watching him watch the television, we see that there are lots of lab stuff sitting off to the back. However, that side of the garage I won't have room for. So I'm only going to do the side of the garage where the DeLorean is sitting. I'm going to start with an old piece of furniture. And this is basically going to be the table that the lab setup will be sitting on. And this is just an old kind of junky piece that I've had. I got in a lot and it needed some work. And so I just kind of set it aside for a future project. And today's the day. You can see that it is a pink traditional desk, pink and white traditional desk. It has some brass hardware on it and it has these very traditional legs over here, these turnstile legs. And what I'm wanting to do is actually transform this into more of a 50s style tanker desk. And if you don't know what these are often were used in schools or labs as big, giant, heavy metal desks. And I really love the idea of the lab set setting on this. Now, the thing is, we don't ever actually see what the lab set is sitting on. We just see kind of the set itself, the lab equipment and the beakers and that sort of thing. And so I'm just going to take it upon myself to pretend like I know what's sitting behind there. And in my mind, it's an old tanker desk. So that's what we're going to build. In order to get that look, the first thing, of course, that I'm going to have to do, this desk is covered in glue. So I'm going to remove that glue. I'm going to take out some of the drawers. Many of these drawers actually have been glued in by someone. So I'm going to take those out if I can. I'm also going to remove the side of the legs because a tanker desk typically would come around. It would not have a see-through hole the way that this one does. And so I'm going to remove that and build up on the desk. So here's phase one of the desk. I've removed the fronts of the drawers. Actually, all the drawers. That one is just glued in there really tightly, but you're not going to be able to see that. I'm going to try to salvage the top two drawers, make them more like a utility top drawer if I can, if it looks okay. So the next phase here, I have added some basswood to the back and the side. I've also added a little piece of trim to give the front a cleaner look. Now, at first I wanted to take popsicle sticks and I thought maybe that would be thick enough to cover the front of the drawer fronts, but it was a little too thin. So I'm just going to use a little bit more basswood to cover the front drawers. And just what I want to do is make it look like there's more of a cabinet drawer, or a file cabinet drawer on the bottom, and then a middle drawer, and then a utility top drawer. Now, I already can tell right now that I'm not feeling those two top drawers. They actually look quite out of place now. The other issue that I'm having is this side panel right here. Because of the old legs, the way that they were built, I've got this little indentation. So what I'm going to do is just take some air dry clay and fill that in and then sand it down as best as I can. And hopefully that will give it a nice clean look. Mind you that I am sanding in between coats. So I'm just going to do like an elephant gray as a base coat to this because the tanker desks were all made of metal. And so I do want to have more of a metallic color on this, a metallic silver, but I'm going to base coat it in just a regular gray. And honestly, once I started painting it, I knew for a fact that I am not going to keep the two top drawers. So I will just create a long utility drawer at the very top with some more basswood. Now, also the other thing about the tanker desks is that they do have those mid-century legs on them. I'm going to go ahead and do that with some polymer clay, create some legs, mold them out. It was kind of challenging because I needed them to look a certain way, especially with the little end caps on two of the legs. And then for the other two, you can see they're just more like chunky triangles that go up underneath there. So that was a bit challenging. But other than that, I think it was turned out okay. From there, again, I had sanded. So one of the other reasons why I wanted to add legs to the desk was because even though these are both 12 scale dolls, Doc is slightly taller. And so I really did want the table to be to scale to at least almost his waist. And then once the lab set goes on top, it'll be exactly the right height. Okay, now I've just added the metallic paint to it. And I also painted the legs black on the one side and then just kept them in a matching silver on the other side. And I will do probably at least one more coat. Now for the drawer pulls, I really did want to create just a very modern metallic type of a handle like you would see on a tanker desk. And so I thought that the easiest way to do that would be to use staples. So for the two bottom drawers, I'm using about 4 mini staples all together. And the way I just made sure that they stayed together was I added a little bit of super glue to the back of the handle side so that they would stay together. And after that was dry, I glued them to the front of the cabinet. And then that kind of gave me that real modern, sleek, nice tanker look. All right, so on the side of the desk where I had put the clay, I didn't really like the way that it came out. It was still it wasn't as smooth and transitional from the top part to the wood base. I'm going to cover it up a little bit, basically. I'm going to cover my mistake. And I printed up these old 50 style atomic age posters. I'm going to cut them out and then just glue them to the side. That will give that a better look and it will feel a little bit more intentional. And again, covering my mistakes, right? Sometimes it's all about illusion. So there you go. I've just added a couple posters to the desk and pretty much that's it. All right, so moving right along to the lab portion of the desk. I basically, when I look at the video, I can see that there are, a few bars on the lab setup, and then he's got some different beakers and things like that. And so what I basically did here was I drew up a mock-up of kind of what I'm hoping mine will look like. And this gives me a good idea with space and everything. And I did use the top of the desk to kind of give me a measurement of how long I wanted it to be as well. And I kind of drew this out with some beakers and different test tubes and things like that. And then I just took some foam remnant and cut out a piece of that to the right length and also the width, because I don't want it to be the full width of the entire top of the desk, because I like to add a few other accessories to the front of it. And then I went out to the garage and I found this copper wiring. These are a couple remnant pieces as well, something that my husband was working on. He said I could have them. And so I'm just going to cut those down. And those are going to be my sidebars and also my middle bars. Now, in my vision here, I was wanting to do 3, but I don't think I have enough wire to do that. So I'm just going to do 2. And I think it's still going to give us the same look that I'm going for, even not having that great material. I will tell you that maybe buying new wire would have been ideal because it was really hard to get all the kind of waviness out of this wire. So here it is once everything is in place, and I did just use my super glue and my activator to give me an instant connection there. Obviously it's the wrong color, so it will be painted, but let's take a look at some of the beakers. So usually probably at this point in my video, I would start talking about going to my stash and getting all these materials, and here we're going to make some homemade beakers, etc. But I didn't really have anything, and then after looking at the cost to make your own, it was much easier and more cost efficient to just buy a package of these already pre-made miniature beakers. It comes with 3, and then like these little injectors are really pretty cute little setup right here. So I got a couple for myself. I got a couple for you as well if you're interested in doing this, if you're working on any project, like I said at the beginning of the video, that would require some sort of lab stuff. I do have these on my eBay website for you to purchase. They're $12. That does include the shipping, so that's kind of nice. So they're very inexpensive. So anyway, great setup here, and that's what I'm going to be using today. So now I've gone ahead and painted my setup with my Tester's silver paint to give it a really nice metallic look. And now I'm just going to do some painting of the beakers to give them the impression as though they're filled with fun chemicals. So I've got this lavender color here. I'll be painting on the outside of my beaker because these are fully plastic. You can't put anything inside of them. So I'm just taking my acrylic paint and I'm going to paint the outside so that it looks like it's filled. And the paints that I'm using these colors because I'm trying to mimic what I'm seeing in the movie, of course. So I'm doing the purple, the lavender. I'm going to be doing this metallic copper color also on 2 of them. And then one is clear as well. It doesn't look like there's anything in one of the tubes or the beakers, so I'll leave one clear. And the way that I'm going to attach these is by super glue. However, I do want them to have some sort of metal around them that looks like it's holding them in place. And so I have these garbage ties. It's really easy to get the plastic off of those. I just did a quick little slice with my X-Acto knife, and then once the plastic was kind of pulled away, all I had to do was really peel it right off and it came right out. Okay, and then I've added all of my beakers. Now, once I got them on there, honestly, it looked a little snooze alert, you know, it was just a little boring. So I did add one extra beaker and I painted that one green. Felt like it just really needed a little extra. And the other thing I'm gonna do that's extra that we're not seeing in the movie, but I feel like makes an impact, is I'm going to take these little pieces of wire. Now, these are the wires that were holding my Marty McFly doll inside his packaging. But they are clear tubing with a metal wire in the center. And so it just looked like a really cool tube that would be maybe going from one beaker to another. So I'm just gonna take one of my handy dandy miniatures tools here, the toothpick, and I'm gonna wrap my little tube right around that to give it a really nice cute spiral. Very scientific. And then once I have that little curly Q there, I'm going to just glue it into one beaker and glue it the other end into another beaker, so that looks like there's some science happening here. The other kind of fun thing to do, which I didn't do here because for the scene it's like a non-working setup, but if you took like a little tad bit amount of some cotton and had it coming out of one of these top of the beakers, it would look like maybe some smoke was coming out, and that would also be really cute and fun to do. So that's basically the setup. Now, to keep that paint from chipping off or scratching off of the outside of the beaker, since I painted the outside, I am taking this outside and I am going to do a nice top coat to just keep those paints on those beakers. And then I just want to add a few little things to the front of it. I will probably add more later once everything is in the garage when we're putting everything together at the very end. But for now, I just thought it'd be nice to add up some rolled papers and a couple things like that just to make it look like stuff was happening. Science stuff was happening at some point over here in the corner of the garage. So I've got just some rolled up papers, a couple of the other posters I had folded that I had printed. I'm just going to fold those up to add a little extra color. And then this is a Mayberry miniature right here that I received as a Christmas gift. It's actually for little kids. It's like a little kid pad, but I'm going to take the top off because it has a lot of really nice papers underneath that look like they could really be used great for making charts and notes. So I'll add that to the desk. And then that same little Mayberry package had a whole bunch of pencils and stuff in them. The problem is the pencils are really actually kind of too large. It's kind of out of scale. So what I'm going to do with that is just going to hide it within the notepads and of paper so that you kind of see like a little eraser poking out so that you know in your mind there's a pencil there, but you're not seeing the full scope of it so that it looks like it's the right scale. And that's it, you guys. That's our lab for the Back to the Future room. And of course it will go into the space once that it's all worked out, but we still have lots of other things to make for the room before it all comes together. All right, and then last time I did the Back to the Future video, I did ask if any of you would like to see some of my background movie memorabilia that I have collected over the years. And so today I thought we'd start with a couple little fun items. This is the letter that Marty McFly does give to Doc to help try to save his life. It is the letter that Doc rips up. They did a really good job in recreating it. It's got the letterhead from the cafe that Marty writes his letter on. And it, of course, has the envelope as well that tells him please do not open until 1985. And in addition to that, I also have a sports almanac. Now, this is actually just the cover is basically Back to the Future because the inside is a blank notebook for me to make all sorts of notes on. I can't bring myself to write anything in it because I do not dare mess it up. But oh, I should actually probably write in all my notes for this room. That would make more sense, but here we go. And then also I have a fake copy of George McFly's book that he writes, which is called, of course, A Match Made in Space, and it's based on his actual experience with what he thought was an alien, which is actually Marty dressed up as the fake Darth Vader from the planet Vulcan. So what's really nice about this one is it is also a notepad, but what's really fun about it is in the very bottom it has several of the lines from the movie that inspired the book. Well, you guys, it also looks like tiny Whitney Brown is also enjoying the lab setup. Looks like she might be making some crazy experiments over there, and you know what? She should really be careful. I don't think she's very good about things like that. Oh, but anyway, everybody, thank you so much for being here. I hope you had fun today. I certainly had fun making this. Lab setups are so fun. for so many different applications. And so I hope that you found this fun and inspirational, and maybe you will try something like this in one of your own future projects. Thank you so much for being here. As always, please make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment below, give me a thumbs up, share the video if you feel so inclined, and I will see you next time.